Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another part of our series of rerun guides for units that we've already covered officially on the channel, but are worth revisiting once their second or third or maybe even fourth banner ever have arrived. And the subject of today's guide is going to be one of the most popular units in the game, Cartethyia. And what we'll be doing today is, of course, breaking down all of the best ways to gear her, play her, rotate with her team to get the best results possible in a variety of different game modes. And we've got all of the teammates that she could possibly use in the game ready to go, and of course, all the different game modes to experiment with. So without further ado, let's get this breakdown started by, of course, starting with a bit of a kit overview. So, when it comes to Cartethyia, she has a pretty simple kit breakdown. And while I could go through and just, talk about what all of the individual abilities do just in, the skill menu, it'd probably be a little bit more exciting to, actually just take her for a spin in her very own trial to demonstrate it that way. So let's go ahead, let's start off over there, because Cartethyia is one of the most simple kits in the game, but you do have to know what all of her different abilities do. So I'm just going to go through a live gameplay demo, knowing that we all have, at least those who were there for her release, we all have a bit of experience with her character. So one of the big goals of Cartethyia across her rotation is to summon 3 swords via her Forte circuit. And the way that she summons each sword is unique, but also easy to remember. One sword she summons by using an intro skill or a heavy attack. That's the first sword. Then she gets another sword when she uses the 4th hit of her basic. That's the second sword. You can see they all have different icons. And the third sword she summons by using her skill. And that's the third one. And then she triggers the swords by plunging. You trigger all of the swords that you have active whenever you do that plunge, and you'll see over here, this buff over here is going to last for a while, but it will eventually actually start ticking down. Basically, for every single sword that you activate, you get special buffs when Cartethyia uses her big lady form. We'll get into the specifics of those buffs later on. They do get a little bit intricate, but the idea is you just want to get all 3 swords up and then use her liberation. Sounds pretty simple, right? Now let's go ahead. Let's actually just restart this trial real fast so I can show you what a typical team rotation would actually look like. For this demonstration, I'm just going to show you what Cartethyia's rotation looks like when you have Ciaccona's intro skill. So we're just going to start it off over here, and now we're going to go in. We get our first sword, then we're just going to basic attack for the second sword, then plunge for the third sword, and then we'll use our liberation. And typically, when you do a Cartethyia combo in big form, there's a lot of different things you can do. I personally just like using skill, attack, skill again, then just do a basic attack chain until we're good to go, then 2 heavy attacks, and then you'll do the final liberation. That's personally the combo that I like running in her teams. It doesn't really matter what you do as long as you end up using her liberation, but that's just one that feels pretty smooth to me. You can also just experiment between spamming your basics or using a jump attack after basics. It doesn't really matter that much. The goal just is, when you're doing that final hit of her liberation, you gotta make sure that there's something called arrow erosion on the enemies. And you can see over here, arrow erosion has a very specific symbol. And the more stacks of that arrow erosion you have on the enemy, the more that final hit of her liberation, right, where she goes like this, the more damage that'll actually deal. And so that's why you want a character like Ciaccona who, well, let's see what happens when we use Ciaccona's liberation. Oh, we're applying a lot of it. So you can see why those two characters are kind of meant to work together, and there's a reason why Ciaccona is in Cartethyia's trial. That's going to be it for the introductory kit and gameplay overview. Now let's get into some of the specifics behind how Cartethyia works. So now that we've gotten the core essentials behind our gameplay, let's go through why those inputs are necessary. So the big thing about Cartethyia in her kit design is that she applies her own arrow erosion. That actually exists on her basic attack. And as you're seeing over here, following basic attack stage 4, 1 stack of arrow erosion on targets is inflicted. She also applies arrow erosion 2 stacks whenever she uses her baseline skill. You're also going to notice most of Cartethia's damage is actually basic attack. You also see all the different mechanics over here for summoning her swords. It's all just the stuff that we covered at the start. The reason why you want to summon all of Cartethia's swords is because she gets various buffs depending on, well, the amount of swords that you have summoned. Basically, when you have all 3 swords summoned, her 4th basic attack, when she's in Big Mommy form, is going to stagnate enemies. She gains interruption resistance. She's also going to get arrow erosion damage amplified, and she's also going to make sure it doesn't fall off too fast. And then she's also going to spread arrow erosion too whenever she's hitting enemies in multi-wave. You can clearly see over here, having all 3 of those swords active is going to be pretty important to actually getting all of her results in combat, and it's really easy to actually activate those swords. Another big part about Cartethyia is when she transforms into that Big Mommy form. A lot of her attacks are going to consume arrow erosion and instantly trigger 1 instance of damage on the enemy. However, when her big attack gets amplified, right? Blade of Howling Squall, when her big attack that she uses, when she builds up her Forte Circuit in big form, when that consumes arrow erosion as well, you want to make sure that you're managing your stacks. And when you don't have a Ciaccona on your team, right? When Ciaccona is a character who literally applies over 20 stacks of arrow erosion with their liberation, well, you might actually have some issues. And that's why Ciaccona is considered one of the most important characters for Cartethyia overall. Because without Ciaccona, Cartethyia actually loses a lot of her potential damage, right? Because she triggers those arrow erosions, and then she has arrow erosion damage amplification as well, and then she needs more stacks on the enemy to deliver her final nuke. So those are some of the drawbacks when it comes to Cartethyia, when it comes to her kit design, that unfortunately do make her a bit of a partnered pairing, specifically with Ciaccona. Now let's take a look at some of the things like her inherent skill. So this one over here is just going to increase healing for everybody on the team and give Arrow Rover additional synergy with her character by giving them their Forte Circuit whenever they use their liberation. This inherent skill literally is like, it kind of really doesn't do that much for Cartethyia herself. It only buffs her teammates, but don't worry, she does enough damage. Her other inherent skill is really, really good. Targets with 1 to 3 stacks of erosion take 30% more damage from this unit. And targets with more than 3 stacks additionally take 10% more damage from Cartethyia and Fleur-de-Lis for each stack of arrow erosion they have. So, after everything that I've said, with her buffing her own arrow damage amplification, with her consuming arrow erosion stacks whenever she hits enemies, with her needing stacks to trigger the most damage possible on her liberation, and then her also getting up to 60% more damage if the enemy has 6 stacks, you're probably, again, seeing why I've been talking so much about how closely she's tied to Ciaccona. You're also going to notice, oh, it goes up to 6 stacks. That also means that she's going to be pretty closely tied to either, well, Chisa, who can provide those stacks, or good old Arrow Rover, who also has that outro skill, but only for arrow erosion. So yeah, those are going to be some of the specifics when it comes to Cartethyia and her teams. However, there is a bit of a interesting thing you can do, and that's called buy sequence nodes. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, Cartethyia essentially loses her reliance on other teammates as she gets more and more of her sequence nodes. Her first one doesn't really particularly do that much other than increase her own critical damage. It's great for a personal damage boost, but doesn't do anything for her reliance on specific teammates. Her second one, on the other hand, you can see over here, increases the max stack limit of arrow erosion on targets by 3 within a certain range. So she loses her reliance on Arrow, Rover, and Chisa to fully max out her first inherent. She also gains the ability to actually apply a decent amount of arrow erosion as well. However, it's not enough to remove her reliance with Ciaccona. S3 is where stuff gets very interesting, because now basically all of her attacks apply 2 stacks of erosion on hit. And then her liberation gets a 100% damage multiplier increase as well. So you're seeing over here, by S3, Cartethyia essentially becomes an independent character who's able to A, raise her own stack limit of erosion, and then B, sustain the stack limit as well. S3 Cartethyia basically is just like, has permanent uptime, is a unit that can pretty much solo all the content in the game that's not arrow resistant, and is also the reason why there's so much misinformation surrounding this fucking character. Because people pull their S3 Cartethyia, they don't say it's S3, and then they suggest to other people that they just solo everything in the game with her. Because they have an S3 Cartethyia, and it's really easy for them to do it that way. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have an S3 Cartethyia, maybe tell the fucking community first before you go around suggesting that they do things with the unit that only you can exclusively do, because these 2 sequence nodes are incredibly fucking strong. Anyways, let's move on to S4. S4 is going to give her overall negative status team support. Basically, everyone gets 20% additional damage. Cool. Her S5 is going to give her more sustainability, which you shouldn't really need, because if you need sustainability at S5, that would mean that you're somehow not killing everything in the game at S3. And at S6, yeah, she just does a fuck ton more damage, dude. Like, what can I say? She just, like, she maxes out arrow erosion, just like casting abilities now. And then, like, the number of stacks will never go down. And so, like, they also take 40. Yeah, she's just gonna fucking blow everything up. I mean, it's not, like, you guys have seen an S6 Cartethyia. It's absolutely unethical. But that's going to be the character. And the sequence knows. Now, let's get into the Echo building, the gear, and all of that stuff. Cartethyia only has one real choice when it comes to her Sonata set and her 4-cost Echo, as well as her Echo build. She is the only character in the game where you kind of want 4-4-1-1-1, because she's an HP scaler. And guess what 1 costs give a fuck ton of? HP. So the end result is that you actually want a Remini Fleur-de-Lis in the main slot, crit. The other one's crit damage. This is a really good roll. You can see it over here. I know you're fucking jealous. Anyways, you want a crit damage on the other one, which is going to be a Nightmare Kelpie. Then you just want crit damage, crit rate, and HP across a bunch of 1 costs. That's what it is. Her build can be a little bit annoying because it can be really hard to farm 1-cost Windward Pilgrimages. But one thing about Windward Pilgrimage is I think Kuro understood and decided to make every enemy in the game drop it. I think this might be the set with, like, the most 1-cost Echoes, because this is fucking absurd. Yeah, like, basically every single mob in the game in Septimont drops this set. So you should be, like, good on being able to farm it. That's it. There's really no other options here. And Windward Pilgrimage is broken on Cartethyia because the first part of it gives 10% arrow damage. The second part of it just gives 30% arrow damage and then 10% crit rate. This is just Sierra Gale with 10% crit rate on it and easier activation conditions for Cartethyia. Like, this to me is the biggest example of Sonata set power creep. It's just Sierra Gale with 10% crit on it. So, there you go. She's got a great set. Her weapon options are also a little bit limited. Because Cartethyia is an HP scaler, she doesn't benefit from the same stats that other characters would. Primarily, the main stat or the base attack on a weapon. A base attack on a weapon being really good is really good for attack scalers. It means nothing for this unit because her signature kind of is telling you that. It's got the worst base attack in the game, but a really big attack main stat. And then the weapon effect is also similarly strong. HP increased by 12%, and then ignore 8% of the target's defense when dealing damage, and if they have at least 1 stack of area erosion, the damage taken by the target is amplified by 20%. Unfortunately, Cartethyia is also one of the more signature reliant feeling characters in the game. From the perspective of if you don't have her SIG, you are just missing out on a fuck ton of stats that you will never be able to get anywhere else. Because this is 72.2% HP main stat. There's just no other way in the game other than to blow up your crit ratio by like having an HP main stat here. There's no other way to just get these stats. And even if you're going ahead and you're subbing in an EOG, right? A lot of the budget of this weapon is in its high base attack, which does nothing for her. You'll actually notice there's no sword in the game that has 500 base attack and high crit. If there was a weapon like Ciacconia's, which had low base attack, right, and high critical stats, it would probably be Cartethia's second best in slot. But there's no sword like that. And so, like, legitimately, she only has, like, these base attack weighted stat sticks to use, and it's a little bit unfortunate because they're all suboptimal on her inherently because of that. The end result is you kind of want to pull her SIG or you will be on kind of like the back foot because there's just not a lot of other good weapon options. And it is what it is, unfortunately. She is one of the more signature-reliant characters in the game. I don't think she needs it if you're, like, with a Ciaccona who's, like, fully stacked up and ready to go. But it can get a little bit dicey, specifically on floors 3 and 4. No real 4-star options either. So do keep that in mind. Now, last bit that we'll talk about over here, where you are taking this a little bit out of order, but it's not that big of a deal. It's the skill priority. Cartethyia is one of those units that you unfortunately do want to max out, like, everything except her intro skill on, because everything does damage. But if you had a choice, I guess you would do this one first, her liberation, then her forte. But honestly, these should be done like just max out everything. Okay? Just everything in her kit does a lot of damage. Everything. I'm not joking. So just do everything. That's my best advice for you. But then leave her intro skill a little bit lower. But honestly, you could keep it higher because the scaling on it isn't bad either. She just has good scaling. It is what it is. I don't really know what else to say about it. Yeah, all of her motion values are really good on a lot of her abilities. That's why you want all that HP from her weapon. Yeah, that's just how the character functions. Now that we've gotten through the specifics when it comes to building Cartethyia, when it comes to, like, basically all the administrative stuff, now let's start talking about her teams and her actual performance over here. Because one thing is certain about Cartethyia. She's got the highest performing teams in the game, right? She has the best teams in the game. They have the highest damage. Unfortunately, they're inherently tied to negative statuses, so Cartethyia does end up feeling a little bit weaker in some game modes, especially relative to some other units. And the main game mode I'm talking about is, of course, Wuthering Waves. So the best place for us to actually judge this character is probably going to be on this floor over here. We're going to be tackling one boss on floor 4. I'm not going to bother with the second one, otherwise the runs are going to take way too long. And we're just going to be demonstrating, of course, the best in slot team all the way down to the more budget teams. And this is going to be the best team that Cartethyia has in version 3.0. It's going to be Chisa, who's going to be on the Thread of Severed Fate set. I actually have her on an ER piece as well. 2-piece ER, 1-piece Severed. It doesn't really matter. You got the 2-piece set for a reason. I needed more ER, so that's why I did it. You can have Havoc damage too, doesn't really matter. And then on my Ciaccona, I'm just gonna have, obviously, right, Gust of Welcome, which is gonna give Cartethyia that arrow damage. And so this is just the team that we're gonna be running, and I'll walk you through the rotation. All right, it's gonna be pretty simple because we've already figured out Cartethia's. Now we just gotta add Chisa and stuff on top. So this is what you're gonna do here. Stage is gonna start. You're gonna press E with Chisa, then auto attack, then echo skill, then liberation. Then you're just gonna spam the basic attack button over here. Do your big snip. Then transform. Then do your big hit. You gotta watch out. Sometimes when you intro skill in, the guy will be mid-grab and then you'll just die. Like, you actually can't do anything about it because, like, the camera angle, like, you guys know what I mean, right? That just looked crazy. It happens sometimes against this guy. Sometimes he just does that attack and, like, bro, he He does like the 360 gripperoo and you're just, it's over. Like, dude, that was nuts.
Obstruction. With a pivotal moment.
All right. So we got that opening, did the skill and the basic attack. Now we're going to get our big snip. Chain to chainsaw mode. Then just spam more basics. Then basic attack until we get our stack. Then jump attack. Skill. Then forte cancel. And then use our liberation. Now we're going to go on Cartethyia. And spam our basic attack until we get 1 stack. Which can be hard if you're getting hit. Skill. Then plunge. Then E. Attack. Then just do our big combo over here. And then the double heavy into a liberation. Right? And as you can see over here, that did a lot of damage. Like, a lot of damage. And I probably don't need to remind you that my Cartethyia is S3. Or, sorry, she's not S3. She's S0. So, this is S0 damage. She's not S3. I'm not even using the Tomb Break either. Wait, let me use it. Yeah! Anyways, you can see over here, the guy doesn't even survive 2 rotations in that team. And that's what the performance looks like when it's S0 Cartethyia, S0 Ciaccona, S0 Chisa. They all are R1, so again, I don't want to take away credit from that, but that's the performance in that team. As you can see, it's pretty good. It's pretty powerful. Most would say it's one of the best ones in the game. And that's why this character is so popular, right? Because she does have the highest damaging team in the game. Unfortunately, if you're not really fully leaning into maximizing that area erosion capability, which you can only really get with her at S0, the performance just isn't there. So now let's go ahead, knowing that some people might not have Chisa, let's experiment with the absolutely 100% free-to-play option that everyone is guaranteed to have. I need to actually put some fucking gear on them, so give me a second. I need to actually put a Windward Pilgrimage set on. You kinda bussin'! Wait, you kinda bussin'! I should max out his shit. Anyways, that's gonna be the Arrow Rover that I'm using, and we're gonna be replacing the Chisa with that Arrow Rover. And these guys essentially do the same fucking thing, except Arrow Rover's gonna feel way more clunky when they're actually on the field. So let's run it through with this team. All right, so for this lineup, what we're gonna do is just press E, attack twice, cool, attack twice, then liberation, and then double skill. You would normally echo skill there as well, but I don't have the fleur-de-lis sword equipped. And as you can see over here, aside from us getting whacked by the guy, you can see the performance is pretty much identical to what we had when we were playing Chisa. And this is one of the main reasons for why Chisa is one of the worst picks in the game. Because when the reality is, I'm getting almost pretty much the identical fucking damage numbers, right? Because this team, on its second rotation, it actually does rotate a little bit faster. Like, guys, I'm going to be real over here. There's almost no reason to ever use the Chisa team if you have this one. And we're basically clearing at identical intervals. Oh, shouldn't you use the Echo for Arrow Rover? Oh, guys. I actually found out why we took longer on this side. There's actually a special Echo skill buff, and I think because I decided not to put like the special Arrow Rover Echo on and activated. I was just using the passive Kelpie. I think we actually missed this one. So yeah, that's probably the difference in between those clears. As you can see though, it doesn't really matter because that's still killing the enemy within a minute, which is incredible timing anyways. The main point that I'm trying to drive is that there's functionally no real difference in performance between these two teams. However, if you're ever in a situation where your Cartethyia, like, doesn't have a SIG, or somebody's, like, missing equipment, then the additional damage that Chisa provides will probably be of some benefit to you. But when you're at the point where everybody has a signature, by that I mean Ciaccona and Cartethyia have one, the gap between these two units is so small, it's unbelievable. Now, we have the final sort of situation over here. This one's going to be really tricky. There could be the really stupid chance that you have no Ciaccona, but you have Chisa. And there technically is a team here that technically does work, but it's so weird that you know what? I'll just demonstrate it. So the idea is that this team, before you play this team, you actually need like a Ciaccona set. I know this is going to sound really dumb, but this is like, just bear with me for a second. Basically, the idea over here is that Chisa applies Havoc Bane with her kit that Arrow Rover is supposed to convert into Erosion. And so you build up Havoc Bane with Chisa, convert with Rover, and then detonate with Cartethyia. Unfortunately, Arrow Rover then needs to be on Gusts of Welkin for the team to make sense. So for this team to work, you would need Ciaccona set on Arrow Rover, which is like, okay, sure, why not just get a fucking Ciaccona in that place then, if you're gonna build her damn set? But yeah, I'll demonstrate it, because you basically need Gusts of Welkin on Arrow Rover for this team to even work. So, I've never actually played it before, because as you can see, this just looks dumb, but I'll see if I can make it work. I'll see if I can make it work. You guys can probably tell why I think this is stupid though, right? Okay, hopefully that's understandable. Anyways, same exact opening as before on this team.
Come, meet your end. Structural integrity attack. Carry on. Flicker it.
Then we're gonna go here, and then do that conversion, and then land, and then just kind of do the same thing that we were doing, right? And you can see we're at 9 stacks of erosion, right? We're at 9 stacks. It's not bad, right? But it does make you question, why the fuck are you using this team? Like, why are you using this team? And the thing is, right, this team clearly works. It's clearly not bad. But the question is, it's just the ingredients required to make it work don't make any sense. You wouldn't ever want to actually do this. Oh, I lost one of my swords too. Oh shit, that's a little awkward. Yeah, I lost one of my swords. Basically, despite the massive fuck up I just had, where the guy like actually canceled my sword animation, which is terrible, you clearly see that clears. It's not as good as the other teams, but it will clear the content. However, in what universe will somebody have Chisa but not Ciaccona? In what universe would somebody have Chisa but then not Ciaccona? I don't know, because a Ciaccona is like a prerequisite to pulling Chisa. If you were to pull Chisa without Ciaccona or any plans to get her, you have to call into question the sanity of the person that decided to make that decision. Because why would you do that? There's no real point in this team, because you want Chisa to play Ciaccona with Chisa, because there's no other use case for this character. Because guess what? This is one of her worst teams, but it works if you don't have Ciaccona. Now, let's get into the true giga budget, giga trash team. And that's going to be this one. This team is just really, really fucking bad, but we can try to make it work. So I'll show you what you kind of need to do in this team, but it's really bad. It's just not good, guys, okay? Like we've understand by now, yes, you can do the little swap back. Whatever, I'll just walk you through it. Anyways, fuck, I'm on the wrong stage. All right, guys, are you ready? I'm gonna go in, skill, attack, boom. Great.
Like frigid death.
Hey, you're gonna notice. Oh, man. Basically, Cartethyia plays exactly the same. However, because I don't have any erosion stacks, right? I gotta go back to big form and then kind of rebuild him back up. But you're gonna notice, dude, the damage is kind of fucking bad. Like, the damage is just kind of bad. Like, and so, if you want to do this, I think if you practice it enough, it will clear. But the damage is just not good, guys, right? Like, you can see it's just not great. You also got to order your skills differently to kind of, like, use your skill on Cartethyia as fast as possible. Because guess what, guys? Remember that part that I said where you got to, like, swap back? Yeah, guess what? If your skill's on cooldown during this swap back, it's going to be really awkward. Like that was over there. So you want to, you got to play, like, a lot more sweaty to, like, keep track of all your cooldowns. And guess what, guys? It's going to be a bit rough. Now we'll do a final team where some people have been suggesting it. And this is one of the nice things about having live guides. I can take suggestions from chat. And people want to see what she looks like with Lynae. I've got Lynae on a fully built support set. Pact of Neon Light Leap. So let's just see how this team works. Again, we're going to be using Arrow Rover, but we're going to be replacing Sanhua with Lynae. Yep, Sanhua with Lynae. Skill, basic. Skill, basic. Echo skill into that double activation. Skill into a liberation. Into our nice little charge attack. And boom. Now we actually got erosion stacks on the enemy. Wait, where did my erosion stacks go? Wait, where's my Arrow Rover buff? Is this what? Where did my Arrow Rover buff go? Wait. How did it disappear? Guys, it can't time out. That shit lasts for like 30 seconds. It's not working! Wrong echo set. Hey, guys. How does an echo set have anything to do with Arrow Rover's fucking outro skill? How would an echo set even fucking... Is this another bug? Does Lynae disable Arrow Rover's outro skill? Sorry, I just need to check this out. She might be. Like, because right now, I'm just going to try to, build up erosion stacks. It's bugged! It's capped at 3. It won't go any higher. What the fuck? Anyways, well, that team doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like we found another bug. Because guess what Arrow Rover's fucking outro skill does, guys? Grants Aeolian Realm to all nearby resonators. Upon hitting a target, increase the... It's for 30 seconds. So there's no way that doesn't work because, again, it's... You just replace... I'm replacing Ciaccona with Lynae, and it always works. Try it without Lynae. We just did that because we just played the team where it's Ciaccona here instead of this character, and it works. So we took out Ciaccona, put in this unit, and it doesn't work. So the bug is from Lynae. Anyways, we've clearly seen what the issues are over there. So, basically, this shit is mad bugged. Don't try out this team. If you pulled Lynae and then you wanted to pull Cartethyia, Lynae does not work with Arrow Rover's outro skill. She will delete it from the game. So don't do that until it's fixed. I'll try to get an updated take on how the team does once it's fixed. Unfortunately, I can't test a lot of Lynae teams right now because half of her shit is fucking bugged. I can't test her main DPS team. I can't test this team. It's all fucking bugged. So, yeah, that's the issue with Lynae. All right, I think that's enough for the TOA testing right now. Now let's just do one Whiwa run. Because I'll be able to let you all know just my personal thoughts when it comes to Cartethyia and Whiwa, and kind of the issues that I have with the unit. So, yeah, we'll skip past all that stuff for now. So as you can see over here, when it comes to my Whiwa clears, I typically do tend to get some higher scores. And I use that with a variety of different teams, right? So the only thing that I'm going to be testing over here is, that same exact team that we used before, right? With a Chisa, with a Ciaccona, and a Cartethyia. Because to get a clearable score in Whiwa, it's not particularly hard. Right? It's not really difficult to get a 2.25k on both sides. Chances are you'll probably get something like a 3 or 4k on one side, and then, you know, it's really trivialized on the other. And when it comes to Whiwa, Cartethyia is one of those units that really feels like she wants a gold buff to really feel good. Because when you don't really have a gold buff, she doesn't have a lot of other great tokens to use. Plunderers, for example, is dog shit on her because it's reverse scaling. This scales off attack and you want gradual healing. None of that works. And if you don't have Ciaccona or S3, it feels really fucking rough. And so what I'll do is I'll simply use this purple token because it's the best one that this team kind of has if you're not using a gold token, because you can't really use plunderers in this lineup. Because, again, it scales off your attack and she's HP. So let's do this. Let's see how it goes. And then let's try it out with the gold token, and then I'll let you know my thoughts. The big problem is that this side is going to be the one where there's no liberation at the start. So you can probably imagine it's going to be a bit rough.
Flicker into form. Dismantle. Exile. In a thanks for watching. A perfect chord. Crumble.
So yeah, I'm kind of just like doing my best to like kind of play a little bit sweaty and just rotate through the team. That first bit actually went pretty good because all three of these characters do decent damage, right? We just saw that Chisa go in, right? We saw that Chisa go in. Let's be real here, bro. She hit like 120k. But this is where, like, kind of Cartethyia feels not like the best Whiwa unit. Because my investment is, like, super high, right? I was able to kill that wave. What if I couldn't, and I had to waste that attack on enemies that had, like, 2 HP remaining? That would feel awful, right? But that's kind of one of the big issues with this character, is that she has a lot of those moments where if you don't meet the damage thresholds, like, exactly, you will waste an attack that will one-shot an entire wave on, like, 3 enemies. And that's where the big issues are with this unit. She has a lot of her damage backloaded into that massive hit, right? And if it doesn't work out in terms of, like, when you're able to deliver that damage, and you deliver it at a time where you really don't want to, right? Like here, if I had to liberate here and like, you notice my timings on all of my liberations have been really good, right? That's really good timing on those attacks. But you're not always going to have that level of consistency on them. Because imagine, right, if those elites had half their HP left and I could have just killed them with basic attacks. And that's why Ciaccona, or really, that's why Cartethyia isn't considered one of, like, the best Whiwa characters ever. Because she has some of those, like, weaknesses. That where other characters, right, if they're just way more consistent damage dealers over time, they don't have it. And so you can see over here, right, the stars were lining up for me in that clear. I liberate, and it's on a fresh wave. Every single time I liberate on cart, it's on a fresh wave. Fresh respawned enemies. They're all full HP, and they instantly get nuked down to 0. I did that, and I barely get a 2.5. Do you guys see what I'm talking about when I say this team and this character, they're not really that great in Whimpering Waves? Because compare this team to what we saw in the TOA, where this is, like, legitimately the best and highest damaging TOA team in the game. But then when I take it in Whiwa, I'm playing like that and getting scores like this. And that's the thing. Cartethyia just always has nice gold tokens that she can use. Like this one, where she ignores 20% of the defense of enemies that have negative status on them. And so people are constantly relying on these tokens. Every single time they use Cartethyia and Whiwa, they use the token and then they pretend that she has a consistent level of performance. That's not consistent. A 2.5 with a playstyle like that into specifically no arrow enemies. Guys, there were no arrow enemies on the first half and she struggled that much. This is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. The stars were pretty much aligned for her to get like a 3k clear with a purple token. She gets nowhere close, even with very, very good conditions. And that's what I mean. I don't think she's a great Whiwa unit. I think it's easily her worst game mode. And with gameplay like that, getting a 2.5k, hopefully you can see why. Because these aren't always going to be here. You're not always going to have this. And when she doesn't have a gold token, brother, she feels kind of poo-poo. And I think that's a fair take to make. Yeah, so Frolova, as an example, into 3 Havoc-resistant waves, Frolova gets 3.4k with her team. Just so you guys know. Frolova with no shield token. Because guess what? This is Echo skill, but it gives fucking fusion damage, bro. Frolova's a Havoc character. I used this shit with the Frolova team and got 3.4k. 900 more points in the card into 3 Havoc-resistant enemies. This is what I mean by Cartethyia is not that great of a Whiwa unit when Frolova gets results like that. Plus, there are plenty of other characters that get better results than Cartethyia, like Gian. Anyways, now it's time for a final review of this unit. Cartethyia is what I would consider to be the Lamborghini of Wuthering Waves. Really, really, really strong. The best performance in the game. However, she does come with a couple of gimmicks and she can be a little bit finicky. If you don't have the right investment for her, with her signature, her teammates, and potentially her sequence nodes, guys, she's gonna be like a Lamborghini that you didn't take to maintenance. Gonna suck ass and be just garbage, useless, and you're probably gonna take her to the dump later or something. You go recycle or something. I don't know, right? The idea is that if she doesn't have all the tools that she needs, she doesn't feel very good at all. And even when she has all of the tools that she has, there's still game modes where she feels legitimately not that good. Like, her performance in Whiwa compared to her performance in TOA, the difference is just mind-blowing. That a character can be that bad in Whiwa when they're that good in the TOA. Because of that, I do kind of consider her to be a bit of a one-trick pony from the perspective of don't go in expecting her to like solo carry your account, but if you do get her all the tools that she needs, she'll do really good in the TOA. However, is she going to be a character like Frolova that fucks the TOA and Whiwa at the same time? No. I think Galbraina is a better DPS than her. Does better in Whiwa and TOA. I think Augusta is a better overall DPS than her. Does better in Whiwa and TOA. I think... Hell, screw it. Well, no, she doesn't do better in TOA, but she does way better in Whiwa. Same with Rover, right? She's kind of similar to a Yuno DPS, where Yuno also is really, really good in the TOA, but then Yuno's dog shit in Whiwa because she's mostly single target. So it's just, a lot of these characters, they have their weaknesses, and Cartethyia isn't very well-rounded. And so the end result is that a lot of players, they do kind of like not use her very often, because the end result kind of is, well, you just use her only in the TOA and maybe holograms, but she's not going to be somebody you consistently want to use in Whiwa. And I think that's just the case for the general populace. So yeah, if you're looking for the best performance ever, but limited use cases for like actual meta relevancy, this is the unit to go for. She does have great visuals, great aesthetics, but there are a lot of hoops you do have to jump through to actually get her working in a way that isn't gonna like disappoint you. So yeah, that's gonna be my take. Is Cartethyia a good pull in 3.0? My honest answer is probably not. However, depending on some of your prior pulls, you might feel the need to get her. For example, if you're somebody that has Chisa-Ciaccona and no Cartethyia, you kind of have to get her, otherwise people will question your intelligence, right? If you're in a situation where you have Ciaccona and Chisa and you don't have Cartethyia, yeah, just pull her, right? Because then you have the best team in the game for TOA, right? But if you don't have Chisa, you don't have Ciaccona, and you're thinking about building out this team, it's a lot, right? It's a lot to think about. And it's like not good in one of the game modes, and it's like only good in like one, but then like a lot of teams are good in the TOA, and so it's like, hey, like I would prefer getting Forlova, I'd prefer getting Augusta. Like there are a lot of other characters I'd rather get instead. So again, this is just me being honest, and that's needed when it comes to an updated rerun guide. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can tell, this was a bit longer, a bit more in-depth, but I think that's the type of exposure that we need when we're post-release, right? When we've had more time to actually digest the meta, digest how these characters have shifted it, because we were able to cover a lot more in this than just, you know, a condensed little 15-minute video. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know what you all thought, and peace out. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the updated guide.
Are you certain of this path?
Why are you doing this?
You will betray yourself.
This is not betrayal. This is me being true to myself. Light, come hither!